It was a perfect spring morning for a ride. The sun was bright but not too hot, and I just got my Kawasaki tuned up the day before I was cruising through the suburbs heading home from a coffee run when I spotted the white Range Rover ahead of me. It was crawling at about 15 miles per hour in a 35 zone, the driver clearly distracted by something inside the vehicle. I checked my mirrors, signaled, and smoothly passed on the left when the dotted line appeared. Standard procedure, nothing aggressive. I didn't even rev my engine. That should have been the end of it. But as I glanced in my mirror, I saw the SUV suddenly accelerate, closing the gap between us in seconds. The horn blared for a good 5 seconds. That angry, entitled kind of honk that tells you everything you need to know about the person behind the wheel. I maintained my speed, staying calm as the vehicle tailgated me dangerously close when we approached a red light at the entrance to our gated community. Oakwood Estates, the Range Rover swerved into the left turn lane and cut sharply in front of me, forcing me to brake hard. Before I could even put my foot down to stabilize my bike, the driver's door flew open and out stepped Deborah Wilson, known throughout the neighborhood simply as Karen, our homeowners association president. For the past 3 years, I'd had run-ins with her before, about my trash cans supposedly being visible from the street and about the height of my hedges. But this was different. This was outside her jurisdiction, and she was livid. "How dare you?" she shouted, marching toward me in her designer athleisure wear, oversized sunglasses perched on her head. "Do you have any idea how disrespectful that was? You don't pass me like that. Who do you think you are?" I kept my helmet on, flipping up the visor to respond calmly. "I was just driving normally. You were going 15 in a 35. I was on an important call for HOA business." She snapped as if that justified crawling along and blocking traffic. "You motorcycle people think you own the road. I know where you live. You're in Oakwood, aren't you? In that blue house on Sycamore that's desperately in need of repainting." I sighed, recognizing I was in for another one of Karen's power trips. The light turned green and cars behind us started honking. "We should move. We're blocking traffic," I suggested reasonably. "Don't you dare tell me what to do," she hissed, pulling out her phone. "I'm documenting this. The board will hear about this. You'll be receiving a violation notice." I shook my head for what driving legally on a public road. She narrowed her eyes for disrespectful conduct, unbecoming of an Oakwood resident. I knew arguing with her now would only make things worse. The community clubhouse was just inside the gates, so I decided to pull in there and hope she'd cool down if we were off the main road. Big mistake. She followed me, her Range Rover practically on my back tire the entire way. The Oakwood Clubhouse parking lot was fairly busy that morning. Saturday yoga class was just letting out, and several residents were milling around the front entrance. I parked my bike in a standard spot, and Karen immediately pulled her Range Rover horizontally behind me, effectively blocking me in. She stepped out again, this time with her phone already recording. "Everyone needs to see this," she announced loudly, playing to the small crowd that had started to gather. "This man dangerously cut me off on Maple Avenue, endangering my life and others on the road. He was recklessly weaving in and out of traffic on this death machine." She gestured dramatically at my Kawasaki. "That's not what happened," I said calmly, removing my helmet but keeping it in my hands. "I legally passed you when you were driving far below the speed limit. There were no other cars around." "Are you calling me a liar?" she demanded, stepping closer. Her voice rose several octaves. "I am the president of this association. I enforce the rules that keep this community safe and property values high. You think you can just intimidate me with your reckless driving?" Several bystanders had stopped to watch the spectacle. Most of them were familiar with Karen's reputation. I noticed Sarah from 3 doors down subtly raising her phone, clearly recording the interaction I gave her. A small nod of appreciation. "Look, Deborah," I said, using her real name deliberately. "This has nothing to do with the HOA. We were on a public road and I passed you legally. You're the one who followed me, cut me off, and is now blocking my vehicle. I'd like to go home now." "Oh, you'd like to go home?" she mocked, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Well, I'd like residents who follow the rules and show proper respect. The board will be voting on new restrictions for motorcycles at our next meeting. Perhaps a noise ordinance or restricted hours of operation." I had to laugh at this. You can't restrict legal vehicles on public roads, Karen. That's not within HOA authority. Don't tell me what I can and cannot do, shouted, stepping even closer, her finger now jabbing the air inches from my face. And don't you dare call me Karen. My name is Deborah Wilson, HOA president. By now, about a dozen residents had gathered, watching uncomfortably as Karen continued her tirade. I remained calm, which only seemed to infuriate her more. She was filming herself the entire time, occasionally turning the camera to capture my face, narrating as if she were documenting a criminal in action. "This man is intimidating me," she declared to her phone. "Though I was simply standing there, he deliberately targeted me on the road because I issued him 3 violations last month for improper lawn maintenance and unauthorized exterior modifications." I raised an eyebrow. "Are you saying you recognize me, that you followed me specifically?" She faltered for just a second before recovering. "I am saying you have a history of disrespect for authority and community standards." "I think that's enough," called Sarah from the small crowd. "Deborah, you're making a scene over nothing." "Stay out of this," Karen snapped at her. "Unless you want the architectural committee taking a closer look at that pergola you installed last summer. I don't recall seeing proper approval for that." Sarah's eyes widened at the thinly veiled threat, but she didn't lower her phone. I decided I'd had enough and turned to walk away, planning to call a rideshare and deal with my blocked motorcycle later. That's when Karen made her critical mistake. She lunged forward and grabbed at my helmet, then shoved my shoulder when I turned back around. "Don't you walk away from me," she shouted, her face flushed with anger. "We're not done here." The physical contact changed everything. Sarah immediately called out, "I've got that on video, Deborah. You just assaulted him." Another neighbor had already dialed 911. "Yes, we need police at the Oakwood Estates clubhouse." He was saying there's a disturbance and it's getting physical. Karen's demeanor shifted instantly when she realized what was happening. The transformation was remarkable, like watching a chameleon change colors. Her angry expression melted into one of distress, and tears suddenly appeared in her eyes. "He was threatening me," she whimpered now, playing to a different audience. "I was scared. I'm just trying to protect our community." The police arrived within minutes, 2 officers in a patrol car. Karen immediately approached them, tears streaming down her face. "Officers, thank goodness you're here. This man on the motorcycle has been harassing me. I'm the HOA president, and he's been intimidating me because I enforce the rules." The officers separated us, taking statements from both parties. I calmly explained what had happened. Mentioning that there were witnesses and video evidence, Karen kept interrupting my conversation with the officer, calling out additional accusations. "He speeds through the neighborhood all the time. Children live here. He's a danger to this community." One officer finally turned to her firmly. "Ma'am, I need you to wait your turn. We're conducting separate interviews." When the officers learned about the videos, they asked to see them. Sarah and 2 other neighbors came forward with footage that clearly showed the entire interaction, from Karen blocking my motorcycle to her poking her finger in my face, and finally the physical contact when she grabbed at my helmet and pushed my shoulder. The officers also asked to see my helmet cam footage, which I gladly provided. It showed the original passing maneuver on the road, completely legal and safe, followed by Karen's aggressive tailgating and dangerous cutoff at the light. As the officers reviewed the evidence, Karen's story began to unravel. Her voice grew louder and more defensive. "Do you know who I am?" she demanded of the younger officer. "I work closely with the city council and the police chief. We have mutual friends on the board. I can make one phone call." "And ma'am," the officer interrupted firmly, "are you threatening a police officer? Because that would be unwise." Karen backpedaled quickly. No, I'm simply explaining my position in this community. I'm a respected authority figure here." The older officer closed his notebook and approached Karen. "Ms. Wilson, based on the evidence we've seen in witness statements, we're placing you under arrest for assault, harassment, and making threatening statements." Karen's jaw dropped. "What? This is ridiculous. I'm the victim here." "The videos clearly show otherwise," the officer said calmly as he began reading her rights. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." As the officer placed handcuffs on her, Karen's face contorted with rage. This is outrageous. I will sue this entire neighborhood. I will have your badges. Do you have any idea what this will do to property values? The crowd watched in stunned silence as the officers led Karen to the patrol car. Just before they helped her into the back seat, she shouted, "Emergency HOA meeting on Monday. I expect everyone to be there to address this injustice." The door closed on her final words and the patrol car drove away. The gathered neighbors looked at each other in disbelief before a few nervous laughs broke the tension. 3 days later, a formal notice appeared on the community bulletin board and in everyone's email. Effective immediately, Deborah Wilson is taking an indefinite leave of absence from the HOA board. Vice President Michael Torres will assume presidential duties until further notice. The criminal charges against Karen resulted in a 6-month probation sentence, 40 hours of community service, and a $1,000 fine. She was also required to take an anger management course. When the judge announced the sentence, Karen's face turned a shade of red I'd never seen before as she stammered, But I'm the HOA president." "Not anymore, ma'am," the judge replied calmly. "Next case."